The composer Elisabeth Lutyens is one of the first British adopters of 12-tone compositional techniques, beginning with her Chamber Concerto No. 1 of 1939. Lutyens stated that she developed her 12-tone technique independently of Schoenberg by studying the Baroque composer Henry Purcell's string fantasias. Lutyens wrote numerous works, including a number of film scores, and published an autobiography entitled A Goldfish Bowl. The fourth movement of Lutyens' String Trio of 1964 was generated by three concurrent methods of organization. Use of pitch class palindromes based on a row and its retrograde sharing the same middle note. Repetition of fixed rhythmic patterns. And application of the serial operations of inversion and retrograde to instrumentation. Here's the score of this movement, which is divided into two parts, labeled Part 1 and Part 2, separated by a fermata. Each part contains three similar phrases. Here are Part 1's phrases 1, 2, and 3, and Part 2's phrases 4, 5, and 6. Part 1 and Part 2 are rhythmically identical but differ in pitch and in which instrument plays which rhythmic gesture. Let's hear a recording of Part 1. Examining the opening of the movement, we notice 12 pitch classes corresponding to the row P1. We then notice 11 more pitch classes from there to the end of the first phrase, which repeats P1's pitch classes in reverse, corresponding to the row R1. The middle pitch class 11, circled in blue, is shared by both rows and is marked tenuto, perhaps to bring it to the listener's attention. The rest of the movement proceeds in a similar fashion, as each phrase consists of a row in its retrograde, sharing the middle note, which usually is marked tenuto. Phrase 2 features R10 and P10, phrase 3 I11 and RI11, phrase 4 R5 and P5, phrase 5 P8 and R8, and phrase 6 R9 and P9. Note that two pitch classes are presented in reverse order, shown with asterisks. This movement's rhythms are quite repetitive. Here's phrase 1, and here's its rhythm, along with associated string techniques such as sul ponticello that are associated with specific rhythmic events. This rhythm pattern is reminiscent of the pitch palindromes, as it begins and ends with two similar rhythmic figures in reverse order, a grace note and a quarter note, and a triplet. This rhythm pattern repeats as the rhythm for phrases 3, 4, and 6, although it begins in different locations in the meter. Here's phrase 2, and here's its rhythm and associated string techniques. This rhythm reappears as the rhythm of phrase 5. Again, this rhythm pattern is somewhat reminiscent of a palindrome, as it also begins and ends with rhythmic figures in reverse order. Lutyens applied serial operations to instrumentation in addition to pitch by inverting melodic gestures around the viola and by retrograding the order of instruments that play these gestures. Here's phrase 1 again. Notice that it contains 8 short gestures that all label A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and H. We can represent these gestures and the instruments that play them in phrase 1 like this. Names of instruments are on the left, and letters that represent the melodic gestures follow the name of the instrument that plays them in order. Comparing phrase 1 to phrase 3, we get this. Notice that in phrase 3, the same instruments play the same gestures as in phrase 1 until the change to the last 3 gestures at the end of phrase 3. This suggests more significant changes to come. Here's how phrase 1 compares to phrase 4. To turn phrase 1 into phrase 4, Lutyens inverted the instrumentation around the viola, such that the cello in phrase 4 now plays the violin gestures from phrase 1, and the violin in phrase 4 plays the cello gestures from phrase 1. We can compare phrase 4 to phrase 6 like this. We see that phrase 6 retrogrades the order of phrase 4's instruments with the exception of the gestures D and E that appear in the viola and cello. We can see this more clearly by representing the order of these gestures with contours, leaving out the 2 gestures that don't participate in the retrograde. We see that the contour representing phrase 6 is the reverse of that representing phrase 4, thus illustrating the retrograde.